You don't just own things, things own you. And after 60, that weight feels heavier than ever. The clutter in your home, it's not just stuff, it's a constant reminder of what you're holding on to, whether you realize it or not. But here's the truth. Decluttering isn't just about getting rid of things, it's about freeing your mind. It's about taking back control over what matters and letting go of what doesn't. Maybe you've tried decluttering before, but every object you pick up feels like a memory you can't erase. A gift from a loved one, a souvenir from a trip you'll never forget, a box of things you swore you'd organize one day. But that one day never comes. You tell yourself you'll get to it soon, but the clutter just keeps piling up, and every time you walk past it, it feels heavier. Not just physically, but emotionally. And as the years go by, it feels like the clutter is taking over your space, your mind, your life. The more you hold on to, the less room there is for peace of mind, for enjoyment, for the future. It's hard to admit, but every time you keep something you don't need, it's a small chain that keeps you tied to the past. But here's the thing, decluttering isn't just about getting rid of things, it's about freeing yourself from the emotional weight of holding on to everything. And if this feels familiar, you're not alone. Decluttering after 60 comes with challenges no one talks about. The guilt of letting go, the fear of losing precious memories, and the overwhelming pressure to do it all. But that's exactly why we're here, to navigate this journey together. So if you want more real, honest advice about aging well, hit the subscribe button, because making life lighter starts with the right mindset. Now, speaking of mindset, let's dive into the real reason decluttering feels so hard. It's not just about stuff. It's about the emotions tied to those things and the stories we tell ourselves about what they mean. Let me introduce you to Mary. She's 68, and like many of us, she had a lifetime of memories stored in her home. But for Mary, it wasn't just a collection of old clothes or books. It was a space full of her late husband's belongings, his favourite sweaters, the shirts he wore to family gatherings, the shoes he never quite threw out. For years she couldn't bring herself to part with any of it. She knew she would never wear them, but getting rid of them felt like erasing him, like losing him all over again. Sound familiar? Sometimes we hold on to things because we're not ready to let go of the people or the moments they represent. And it's not just about physical objects. Each piece is tied to a memory, a place, a time, a feeling. Every time Mary looked at those clothes, she was flooded with memories of her husband's laughter, the trips they took, the life they built together. It wasn't just sentimental attachment, it was grief, love, and the difficulty of moving forward. But here's the thing, holding on to everything doesn't bring him back. It only holds her back. She realized that every time she stepped into her bedroom and saw the piles of clothes, it was like she was living in the past, trapped in an endless loop of memories that made it harder to embrace the present. She had to face the hard truth. The clutter wasn't helping her hold on. It was keeping her from healing. So, Mary made a decision. Instead of keeping everything, she picked a few cherished pieces, his favorite jacket, the shirt he wore on their first date, and turned them into a memory quilt. A new way to hold on to the love, but without the weight. Every time she wrapped herself in that quilt, she felt a sense of peace, like a warm embrace from the past, but with the freedom to move forward. The lesson here is simple but powerful. It's not about letting go of memories, it's about honoring them in a new way. Clutter doesn't preserve memories, it can actually bury them. But by transforming the things that hold emotional value into something meaningful, we can free ourselves from the burden of holding on and make room for new memories and experiences. So if you're struggling with the emotional weight of clutter, remember, it's not about the stuff, it's about finding a way to let go of what no longer serves you while holding on to what truly matters. Let me tell you about John. He's 72, and like many of us, he had accumulated a lifetime of just-in-case items. You know the ones? Old tools he might need one day, extra furniture from the grandkids' visits, boxes of wires from gadgets he no longer owned. For years, John's attic was full of these things. His thought process: what if I need this someday? Sound familiar? We've all been there. We hold on to things because we're convinced we might need them in the future. And often we don't realize how much space they're taking up, physically and mentally, until we're forced to face it. John's attic had become a maze of unused items, and every time he went up there, it felt like a daunting task to sort through it all. But what if letting go didn't have to mean giving up the security of knowing you might need something someday? John didn't want to throw everything out, but he was tired of the clutter and the constant nagging feeling of uncertainty. So he came up with a simple strategy, a probation box. Here's how it worked. Anything he didn't use or need within 6 months would go into this box. After the 6 months were up, he'd donate or sell whatever was inside. The idea was simple. If he hadn't used it in half a year, he probably didn't need it. And guess what? After months of doing this, John never missed a single item. The box went to charity and the attic slowly became less of a burden and more of a space that was actually useful again. What he found was that he had been holding on to these things out of fear, but in reality he had everything he needed right there in front of him. The fix here is all about shifting your mindset. Instead of focusing on the what if, focus on the what's now. It's not about letting go of things you might need. It's about making space for the things that truly bring value to your life right now. The probation box is a simple tool that can help you take the emotional pressure off, allowing you to test out what's truly essential. If you don't need it today, you probably won't need it tomorrow. Remember, the more we hold on to, the more we're weighed down by possibilities that never materialize. Free yourself from the what-ifs and make room for the what's next. You'll be surprised how much lighter your home and your mind will feel. Let me share Linda's story. At 64, she found herself standing in the middle of her house surrounded by 40 years of accumulated items, books, papers, knickknacks, mementos from her kids' school days, all things that had once brought her joy but now felt like an insurmountable mountain of clutter. Linda felt completely overwhelmed. She looked at the piles, the cabinets, the drawers, and simply didn't know where to start. So she didn't. She put it off day after day because the thought of tackling everything at once felt impossible. If you've ever felt that way, staring at years of things and not knowing where to begin, you're not alone. It's common to freeze in the face of such a massive task, thinking that you have to declutter every room, every corner, every shelf at once, but that's the trap. The more you try to do everything all at once, the more it feels like too much. And when it feels like too much, it's easy to give up before even starting. But Linda found a simple, yet powerful solution. Instead of looking at her entire house as one overwhelming project, she decided to focus on one small area at a time. She picked a shelf in the living room, just one shelf, and started there. It wasn't about the entire house or even the whole room. It was just one small space she could handle. Once that shelf was done, she tackled one drawer in the kitchen, and then another drawer. The key was in those small wins. Each one built momentum and gave her a sense of accomplishment that kept her going. By breaking the task down into manageable chunks, Linda found herself not only making progress, but actually enjoying the process. The more she decluttered, the lighter she felt, and soon it wasn't about the stuff, it was about creating a space where she could breathe again. The fix here is simple but powerful. When you feel overwhelmed, don't try to do everything at once. Start small. Focus on one shelf, one drawer, one small area that you can control. Celebrate each small victory because those small wins build momentum. The more you declutter, the easier it gets. And before you know it, that seemingly insurmountable task will feel like a thing of the past. Remember, decluttering isn't about perfection. It's about progress, one step at a time. Start with one shelf, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you'll find your way through the clutter. Decluttering isn't about losing things. It's about making space for what truly matters. It's not about letting go of memories, it's about honoring them in a way that allows you to live more freely. When we let go of the things that no longer serve us, we create room for new experiences, new connections, and a lighter, more peaceful future. So ask yourself, what's one thing you can let go of today? It doesn't have to be big, but every step counts. Maybe it's that box of old papers you've been holding onto for years, or the sweater you haven't worn in decades. Start with one small thing, and you'll be amazed at how much lighter you feel. If you've ever felt stuck in clutter or overwhelmed by the process of letting go, know this: you're not alone. This journey can be tough, but it's also incredibly rewarding. I'd love to hear about your biggest struggle in the comments. Let's support each other, share ideas, and inspire one another to move forward. Decluttering isn't just about cleaning up your space, it's about clearing up your mind and making room for what's next. And if this video resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. Because aging isn't about holding on to the past, it's about making room for the future. Together, we can let go of what no longer serves us and embrace the life we're meant to live. Let's do this one step at a time.